All right, time for 6 points and to talk about week 5 in the NFL. Warren Sharp from sharpfootballanalysis.com. Warren, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Exciting week 5 in the rearview mirrors. Monday Night Football on tap, of course, and always happy to talk about ball with you guys, and looking forward to breaking down some of the week 5 results here.
We got to start off with Sunday Night Football. My Patriots won in Buffalo against the Bills 23-20. And boy, oh boy, all my doubts about Drake Maye have just been disappeared after last night's game. 22 of 30 in the game, 273 yards in the second half. Just absolute perfection. 13 of 14 in the second half, made every single play he had to make. The stiff arm pass to Diggs, Warren, he made, and then the play after that, the sideline throw to Booty. I mean, he did everything he had to do. He looked like a superstar, answered all of my concerns about him. Is Drake Maye the next superstar NFL quarterback, Warren? Because it sure looked like it last night.
I think he put on a great show. I don't know that I'm willing to put him in the superstar category. No, don't mean to burst your bubble, but I do think he had a great performance that obviously helped the Patriots pull off a massive upset. I think there are a lot of factors with that, though. They couldn't really run the football, so that was even more positivity towards Drake Maye. I don't understand what Mike Vrabel was still doing, putting Ramondre Stevenson in the backfield. Maybe you can explain that to me, Kevin, because he is a massive liability still in my mind. And it was like at the end of the game when the Patriots had marched the ball back down the field and were getting ready to, kick the game-winning field goal, they hand the ball off to Ramondre. And I'm thinking to myself, the only way you lose this game is by handing the ball off to Ramondre at this point in time, because he could fumble it. Then, of course, they hand the ball off to Ramondre. And it's like, Mike Vrabel, what are you doing here? But Drake was outstanding. And that one play where he was able to almost was down on his knee, had his shoulder pad being pulled down, and still was able to get the ball out was what, leads to the legends. That's one of those plays that people are going to look back on. And it's one of the reasons they won this game. One of the reasons why he had a great step forward in his second season. I am now, though, thinking, Kevin, that the coaching in New England has exceeded the coaching in Buffalo. And I still think the best player on the field is Josh Allen, but I think the coaching staff is far superior in New England to what we have in Buffalo. And case in point, you were watching the game, I was watching the game. How many times did Drake Maye scramble to his right before throwing any meaningful pass in that game? It was like 90% of the time, it felt like before any big pass, he's scrambling to the right. And the Bills still had absolutely no way to
scramble left, right? The one that got tipped, right? The one scramble left, I think, that's the only one I have in my mind.
Yeah, it was remarkable how infrequently he was moving to the left or staying in the pocket. I love what Josh McDaniels is building there for him in year 2 for Drake Maye. I think that's a massive improvement. They use a lot of heavy personnel. Their efficiency passing the ball out of 12 personnel is absolutely phenomenal. So just kudos all around the board. I mean, the coaching staff, the play calling, Drake's execution, they didn't lose the game. They didn't cost the game themselves. And I don't know what Josh Allen exactly was doing on some of his dropbacks. I don't really understand. The other thing is when we talk about coaching, yes, the Buffalo Bills don't have like an alpha number 1 wide receiver, right? Stephon Diggs is now in New England, but they don't have a number 1 alpha, but they constantly are rotating their receivers in and out of the game. So much so that like it's hard to build a solid rapport with the top guys. And it always feels like Buffalo is like lacking something. I mean, yes, they scored 30 points most every game, but like to build a championship team, you have to be bulletproof, especially with your defense like this. Sean McDermott's defense always lets them down and let them down again in this game. They couldn't stop Drake Maye and that passing attack for the New England Patriots. That defense, a lot of money was funneled into it. If they can't win the ball on defense, they have to be bulletproof on offense. And I don't think you can be bulletproof when you're rotating in so many different receivers. Like build a rapport with your top guys, When one of them gets tired, bring in another guy, but they rotate their guys in far too often. And it's shocking to me. People are talking about, oh yeah, Mike McDaniel might get fired down in Miami. Let's bring in Joe Brady as the head coach. I just don't think Joe Brady is anywhere qualified yet. I've not seen it. He's attached at the hip to Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is making Joe Brady, not the other way around.
So you don't. So the Bills are 4-1. Obviously, they're the only undefeated going into last night's game before losing to the Patriots. And New England plays a great game. And like I feel like this team, since their Week 1 loss, when Drake, that was his worst game of the season, he's been significantly better ever since then. And talk about that in a second. But regarding the Bills, Warren, they're 4-1, and a lot of people would consider them, especially with the Chiefs off to an up and down start, the Ravens off to a horrible start. A lot of people would say they are the favorite in the AFC. Do you think that they are the Super Bowl favorite in the AFC, or are you still going in a different direction at this point?
No, I still think they are, because I still think their schedule is so easy that they'll win enough games to have the number 1 seed. And having the number 1 seed is absolutely massive when you're talking about only one team gets a bye. So as a result, I definitely do think that that the Buffalo Bills should be favored in the AFC. The issue, though, is just like, are they the best team in the AFC? I still think the answer is probably yes. But what's frustrating to me is I just feel like they're wasting Josh Allen. Like, that's the sad part about it is I watch, and I know this could be viewed as like overreaction, but I just watch this team play too many of these big games, and it's either Josh Allen making a critical mistake or because he's trying to do too much, but it feels like they don't have the rest of the system around them built up quite as much to be as bulletproof as I think that they need to be for me to say, yeah, like I feel good about putting my money on them to win it all. Like, I think they should be favored. Doesn't mean I'm betting them to win it.
I think that's fair with the Bills. And I mean, you had a little bit of a slip there by accident saying the Patriots being the Super Bowl favorite. Maybe these are old habits coming back. Maybe that's what we're seeing happen right now, Warren, because I'll tell you what, with Drake Maye, I had my questions pre-draft and my questions keeping an eye on the Patriots last year. I had my questions during Week 1, throwing myself back into the NFL this year. And with Drake Maye, I tweeted during Week 1, Drake Maye is not the guy. In an emotional, disappointed state where it felt like the Patriots were doing the same things that they were doing last year, same mistakes, same problems. Mike Vrabel replacing Gerard Mayo during Week 1. I said that. And I was wrong. It's already worthy of being on Old Takes Exposed. Yesterday, I deleted it and I tweeted this out instead as a sign that I have made a mistake, and you can use that screenshot forever as probably my second worst take, besides Killian Hayes being the number 1 pick in the 2021 NBA draft. So this is my second worst take all time, was Drake Maye is not the guy. He is indeed the guy I thought he showed against the Bills, and has showed really ever since Week 1 with his week-to-week improvement. Collinsworth mentioned, a couple things he wanted to see Drake Maye improve at over the course of the season. And you did say initially that you're not quite there with saying he's a superstar or the next superstar. What are the things you do want to see Drake Maye continue to get better at in order to become that next great quarterback in the NFL?
I think pocket presence is one thing. I mean, you got to have to deal with the pass rush a little bit better, knowing when and how to scramble. Running quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks, are one of the hacks in the NFL. But the key is figuring out the right times to scramble. Even some of the best, like Josh Allen, take, for example, I was tweeting about this earlier today, and it kind of got picked up on by a lot of the people in Buffalo echoing these sort of sentiments. There was a play on their final drive on 3rd down where they ended up settling for the field goal to tie the game at 20 apiece, where Josh Allen, in a clean pocket, decided to shift to his right, move out of the clean pocket. Ultimately, he throws the ball back across his body, I think targeting Khalil Shakir. Pass was defensed by Gonzalez and knocked away, and then they had to settle for a field goal. He has a wide open receiver if he just stays in the pocket, running a corner out to the left, and could easily hit it to this guy, and it would have been a touchdown, and the Bills would have had the lead. But he moved out of the pocket. The announcers last night didn't pick up on that, but the announcers constantly were praising Josh Allen earlier in the game and criticizing Drake Maye for keeping Josh Allen's eyes down the field in spite of the rush, being able to move around and still throw the ball down the field. But in this case, he left the pocket too soon. This is something like Josh Allen. Some of the local people were talking about it. I agreed with this. At times, he feels like he has to do so much for the team that he ends up. And I tweeted out this quote that I think is very appropriate. It was apparently Drew Brees told this to Jameis Winston. I'm not sure if you've heard this one, Kevin. Be Bruce Wayne until you have to be Batman. You don't need to be Batman all the time. And that's like very appropriate for Josh Allen is like sometimes you do need to trust what's there, stay in the pocket. But when he gets late in games and he feels like he has to run and turn it on and everything like that, then he's like always in that mindset instead of reading out the defense every single snap and running when it's appropriate. That's what Drake Maye needs to build up as well. Not the Batman aspect of it, but run when there's a lane there. Run when you could take advantage of it. I've told this to coaches that I've worked with in the past, and this was true 5 years ago and is true today. The number one best play in football is when a quarterback sees an open run lane in front of him and just takes it. Just a design pass play where a quarterback just runs with an open run lane in front of him. That is like guaranteed to get like 5 to 7 yards per play at a minimum, 5 to 7 yards per play. When he sees it, take it. So many of these quarterbacks are being coached to like read things out, look down the field. And yes, absolutely. You should try to be doing that and win the down before the snap even occurs by being intelligent enough to get your team into the right play based upon the coverage. This is what Tom Brady always did. He talks about it at length, in the offseason on some of the shows that he's done. Win the down before the snap, get the team in the right position, make sure, I think he had a quote, I never judge myself based on the throw that I made. I judge myself based upon were we in the right play for the defense so that we could win this snap. And that's what all quarterbacks need to focus a lot more on. And so, yes, if you can figure out that play and know where to throw the ball, that's what you should be doing. But certain situations, when there's an open run, just take it. It's a layup. This basketball, super easy. Don't pass up the layup. Don't pass up that layup. Get those. Generally speaking, those plays average actually closer to 9 yards. I gave the bare minimum of 5 to 7, but it's an average. You would take a 9-yard average play any day of the week. And so you need to take that more frequently. So run when there's that opportunity. Don't feel like you have to be a pure pocket passer and sit in the pocket. But I think he's well on his way. And I think with his coaching staff, he's going to get there. I really do think that the scheme that they've got there is a winning scheme. And I love the personnel that they have to support that, especially with Diggs not seeming to be bringing his ego with him and just buying into the team concept with Vrabel there. I mean, I love what I'm seeing so far. If they could just figure out the fumbles. I'm not sure what's going on with Ramondre Stevenson, but I would love to see a little bit more Travion Henderson personally. But I really like what this team is doing, and they're really good against the run as well. So once Gonzalez is back fully healthy in the secondary, this is a very well-rounded team.
A lot of easy games on the Patriots schedule as well. So potentially
Yes.
a lot of wins ahead from them. They could very well be 7-2, 8-2 at one point. So you mentioned, the quarterback development, and one of the things that's been on my mind this season, and then before the season began, I'm getting back into the league and I'm asking about is Baker Mayfield good now? Geno Smith going to the Raiders, these guys who really weren't that good the last time I was really watching the NFL super closely. Josh Allen become a megastar, Lamar Jackson having only 4 interceptions last year, and again this season interception totals seem to be quite low. So I'm curious, Warren, can you explain to me what are the factors behind the low interception totals across the NFL?
It's even though we've had Cooper Rush throwing 3 yesterday, backup obviously in a bad situation, getting his butt kicked. Even though Jake Browning threw 3, another backup getting his butt kicked, we are still at the fewest total interceptions thrown in any season through week 5 since at least 2000, where my numbers go back to. So we aren't seeing nearly as many interceptions. It's in part because teams are not trying to press the two high safeties. They're trying to just throw underneath. They're taking what the defense is giving them a little bit more. They're also running the football at a little bit higher rate in general across the league, although we should talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and their lack of running the football with a massive lead yesterday. But the point is that we're not seeing nearly as many interceptions league-wide, and that is why the punch-out fumbles are becoming more of a game-changing factor, because normally it would be interceptions. Like any turnover, any takeaway is a game-changing factor. But now that we have teams that are more focused on hunting out the punch-out on tackles, and you see it all the time, the punch-outs and how they work, you rarely see the times, though, like unless you're focused on it, where guys are just, solid wrap up on a defender. And they could easily be trying to go after the ball. And this is something that's coached, and some teams have tried to work on it more. Monday Night Football, the Jacksonville Jaguars have been really good at this. Let's see if they focus on it, although the Kansas City Chiefs are really good with protecting the football and coaching that as well. So there's two sides to every coin. But those punch-outs were massive. I think that there were who lost it on Thursday Night Football, the Rams lost it at the goal line. Kyron Williams had it punched out heading into the end zone. That lost the game for the Rams, 100%, just lost the game for them there. And we've seen that around the league. Cam Scadaboo had it punched out yesterday. That was a big factor because that then was returned for a touchdown in the Saints beating the New York Giants in that game. And there were a couple of other games where punch-outs had a massive turning point in those games. So punch-outs and coaching up those punch-outs. And I had a stat last week. It's not updated through this week, but if you had more fumbles forced than your opponent, as long as you didn't throw more interceptions than them, like if the interception numbers were at least neutral, you were 22-2 on the season. So like forcing these fumbles and getting punch-outs is the new way to help yourself win games in 2025.
It gets back to your point about Ramondre Stevenson handing the ball after his fumble early in the game. It's like the only way you could lose this game if it's punched out Kyron Williams style on Thursday Night Football. And so continuing to go to him, it displays trust in a guy who's had some good games in his career, some success, and you're trying to coach him through it, and maybe he can become better and solve this fumbleitis that he has. But at the same time, you're putting your team at risk of losing the game, considering the frequency in which defenders are trying to punch out the ball, probably more than ever at this point. And they're doing that, I guess you're saying, as a byproduct of the fact quarterbacks aren't throwing as many interceptions. So this is a reaction to quarterbacks not turning the ball over as much themselves, right?
Right. If you're a defense and you want to coach up, we need to be ball hawks. We need to figure out ways to get takeaways to help our team win games. If you can't get as many interceptions, then you've got to go the alternate direction and go for those fumbles. And when you have running backs, because now the run rate is a little bit higher. And so the running backs are running through the line of scrimmage and there's more players around them when they're being tackled. Think about it. Like if you're throwing a pass to Stephon Diggs on the sidelines, or all those passes that Drake Maye was scrambling to his right and throwing it down the sideline, the guy was catching it toe tap style on the sideline. You can't force a fumble on those plays. They're very hard to intercept as well. But if we're just relying on the fumble aspect of it, on pass plays and catches, it's harder to force fumbles. There's fewer defenders around those players. But when we're talking about on run plays, when there's multiple guys swarming to try to tackle somebody on most plays that a running back is tackled, that's where you need to be trying to force those fumbles out a lot more frequently, attacking and hunting the ball. And the smartest teams and the smartest defensive coordinators are coaching that more. And I tweeted out about this last week with some of the data to support it. And some people are like, oh, this has been going on for years, the peanut punch. I obviously know about the peanut punch. I'm not suggesting that nobody ever punched the ball out until 2025. I'm saying that more teams around the league are absolutely keying in on this factor as a way to turn games, since takeaways via interception are down, and they're coaching it up league-wide for their players to try to punch the ball out more frequently. And that's why we've seen punch-outs at a ridiculously high rate through 5 weeks.
All right, third point here, Warren. Eagles lost to the Broncos 21-17. Broncos scored 18 straight in the fourth quarter. Sean Payton, just massive cojones, going for two, going to go up 18-17. They end up winning that by 4 points. And so the Eagles, they go up 17-3 with a second half opening drive touchdown. And then after that, 5 plays, 23 yards, punt. 3 plays, minus 16 yards, punt. 3 plays, minus 6 yards, punt. 3 plays, 2 yards, punt. 6 plays, 45 yards. Time runs out. End of the game. They lose, undefeated, no longer. What's going on with this Eagles offense? What was that second half game plan, man?
I don't know what their game plan in general has been. For Saquon Barkley to have 6 runs, here's the mind-boggling thing. I mean, this team, to your point, like they were up by a large margin. We had however many points you said unanswered that the Broncos scored. The Eagles are in a commanding lead in this game through and into the fourth quarter. And guess which team of all the games in Week 5 had the number 1 highest pass rate on Sunday? It's the Eagles.
The Eagles?
Well, how do you have they passed the ball on 81% of their plays in the course of the game? We're not talking about like just the last drive where they were trying to like come back and win because they were losing. Like they were up by a big margin the entire game and passed the ball on 81% of their plays, the highest pass rate of any team. Saquon Barkley had 6 rushing attempts. I do not understand what this offensive coordinator is doing. I don't understand to a degree what Jeffrey Lurie was signing up for here. They saw their team lose play callers back a couple of years ago and promote from in-house to replace them. And it was a disaster. And when they went out mercenary style last year and got play callers from other teams and brought them in, they won a Super Bowl. And here, once again, they lose their offense coordinator, Kellen Moore. He goes down to New Orleans, and we are replacing by a promotion in-house, and it's been an epic failure. I mean, they've had some injuries along the offensive line, but they cannot run the football efficiently. Their dropback game seems broken and predictable. They don't really seem like they have a focus of what they're trying to accomplish. You're just calling plays. It doesn't really feel like they're setting up the offense, building the offense. I mean, AJ Brown complains about targets and all of a sudden they're just throwing the ball down the field a lot the very next game and not running it. This game, my guess, my prediction for week 6 is an overcorrection to the run game. I think Saquon Barkley ran the ball 6 times. We had a lead in the fourth quarter. We had the highest pass rate. What are we doing? Looking themselves in the mirror in their facility today, like being very disappointed. And now they're going to overcorrect and run the ball a ton. I mean,
just like they overcorrected this week with the 81% pass rate. So like they were trying to appease the receivers this week, and next week it's like, oh well, we went too far that way. Now we're going to go swing back the other way. Like you're not seeing a balance that this team needs. Was it like not enough passing in the first 4 weeks, and then this week was too much that they haven't found that middle ground?
Well, it's one thing to pass to build a lead, but you have to get a run game going. And I also didn't necessarily like the way that they were building the pass game this past week, but it's so predictable. Like it was easy for me to bet this game. You know, I obviously bet on these games. It was easy for me to bet this game. I took the Denver Broncos, but I also took from a props perspective, I bet Saquon Barkley under 80.5 rushing yards. I took him over his receiving yards at like 16.5, something like that. Laddered that up because the Broncos are the worst defense in the NFL against running back passes. He caught that long bomb touchdown pass, like a 50-yard touchdown pass. So all those ladders hit for Saquon Barkley. It was just very easy to predict what this offense was going to do in this game. And I agree. It was an overcorrection last week, and now we're going to get an overcorrection the other direction this upcoming week is my prediction. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. I don't know if it's going to be successful. So I don't mind leaning into the pass. Like I'm not coming on here promoting hand the ball off to running backs all game long, right? I don't believe in that. I have a modern philosophy as it comes to passing the football. But there has to be aspects of balance. And if the defense is playing the pass and slowing the pass down by dropping back, you have to be able to run the ball. Or if you have the lead, you have to be able to be efficient on the ground, calling some run plays. And you will not know what is working on the ground if your number 1 running back has 6 carries the entire game. 6 carries for Saquon Barkley the entire game with a lead like that. It's just not a good strategy. It's not optimal.
It's insane. And just for reference, prior to this week, Saquon had 18, 22, 18, and 19 carries falls all the way down to 6 despite having a 17-3 lead heading into the fourth quarter. That is nuts. Just absolutely crazy. So Eagles have some things to figure out. The Ravens, they absolutely have a lot to figure out. Fourth point here. Ravens are 1-4. They get the Rams on Sunday. Is it time to bury the Baltimore Ravens as a Super Bowl contender?
Man, I don't want to have this conversation, Kevin, because I just like Lamar Jackson so much as a talent, as a quarterback. I think so many people have piled on to the wrong things when it comes to Lamar. He hasn't been able to win the big one. He hasn't been able to get over the hump. So they're just assume that he's just not a good quarterback, right? Like, oh, well, he's terrible in the clutch, so he's not a good quarterback. Like the way it is. Everybody is just so provocative in one way or the other, and there's no nuanced conversations that can be had out there anymore. So that's the frustrating part of this for me. I don't know what this team is, though, right now. I truly don't. The Houston Texans clearly were able to name their score, and they clearly decided we're not taking the foot off the gas pedal. And credit to them. They got embarrassed by the Baltimore Ravens a couple of times. Once in the postseason, they got embarrassed on Christmas. What was it, last year or the year before? I mean, the Ravens have had their number, and so they came out and really tried to make their offense everybody happy, right? Get the quarterback feeling good, get the run game feel good, get the receivers feeling good, like good vibes all the way around, keep their defense feeling good. So credit to DeMeco Ryans and company for coming in there and laying an absolute beatdown on the Baltimore Ravens. I did think it was funny, Kevin. I saw a clip today about a guy on the Texans was trying to do like the Ray Lewis dance, and then the Ravens came out and one of the players, I think it was Alexander, comes out, the DB, and shoves him. It's like, no, you're not doing that in our house. It's like, buddy, you're getting your butt. Like, if you cared about our house, defending our house, where was that effort the whole rest of the game? We're caring about a celebration at this point. Like, I just felt like that was short-sighted behavior there, but whatever. I just feel like this defense is a problem, and that's not going to be corrected. They are going to get players back on both sides of the football. They are not going to look this bad, obviously. And it's beyond Lamar. Like, there's a lot of players that are injured for this team. Their starting nose tackle, Madubuike, is out for the entire season, though. And so teams are going to be able to run the football on the Ravens. And when you can run the football on the Ravens, the way the Ravens are going to have success, the only way is to get out to such big leads that defenses have to just offenses have to turn to the pass on you. They just have to throw the football. I don't know if they're going to be capable of doing that, because this is not like an aerial. They could score points with almost anybody, usually with Lamar up, but their offensive line is having some injuries. They don't have those stud receivers. Lamar never really has had stud receivers, so they build through the ground game and then passing off of that. I'm not ready to bury this team. I think down the stretch, they're going to be competitive and they can sneak into the playoffs, and they're going to be a team that nobody would want to face in the postseason, despite Lamar's previous struggles. But I do think as long as Lamar is not injured, they have a bye after this game for a longer period of time. I think that they're competitive, and I still look at that AFC North and say, what is this division? Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily buying the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you look at the Bengals, not good. The Browns, not great. At least they have one side of the football that they're really good on, which is their defense. So I still think the Ravens can get into the postseason here, even with this start. And I buy into like their coaching staff in general of motivating the team as long as Lamar is healthy. The issue, though, like why, Kevin, explain to me why they had Derrick Henry in the game down like 38-6 or whatever the score was in the fourth quarter, running between the tackles for 2 yards a carry. What are we doing? What point are we proving here? Why is Derrick Henry, who is old, who could get injured, who you're going to need healthy when you do try to win games, and you have no shot of winning this one, even involved in this game? I don't understand it. So that was something, although I, in general, think the coaching staff uses analytics and is a smarter coaching staff than average, that was mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Not that it lost the game or anything, but just unnecessary.
Of course, just a silly, short-sighted decision with no reason for it. And ultimately, I think with the Ravens, I agree with you. You know, Steelers at 3-1, Bengals at 2-3, and then the Browns and Ravens both at 1-4. They still could even win the division. Right? They really could still win the AFC North at this point, despite this horrible start. It provided Lamar is able to return and stay healthy, and that hammy doesn't linger as an issue throughout the entire season. Like, of course, provided Lamar can stay healthy. But as you said, if he misses week 6 and then has the bye, and he's got 3 weeks essentially to rest and recover from that, hopefully for Baltimore, they're able to get Lamar back, and hopefully they're able to also, keep Derrick Henry fresh as well. But I'm with you, Warren. Ravens. I would not lose this week,
though. I wouldn't bury him, but like the LA Rams are 7.5-point road favorites, and we just saw the Houston Texans come in here with that like abysmal, disorganized offense and basically name the score. The Ravens, they might get a couple of guys back, but I don't think they're getting everybody back defensively. They're about to head in a bye week where they could rest some players. They're still playing with Cooper Rush 100% this week. The Rams could come in here and name their score themselves, even though they're only favored by 7.5 points here. So the Ravens are going to be sitting at 1-5 on the other side of the bye week, trying to figure out a way to maybe they're in the grave, like the dirt hasn't been put over them yet. They're going to have to figure a way to climb out of the grave and avoid being absolutely buried.
Maybe this is the way it has to be for them to get over the top in the postseason. You have to start low. The crash landing, instead of it happening in January, happens in October. And then you get out of that and you dig your way out of it. And this is the year they end up winning it all. We'll see. As you said, it's going to be tough for them after likely 1-5 after next week. Moving on to a team that's 0-5 and really no hope, it seems, of winning games. That's the New York Jets. They are 0-5 on the season now after a disastrous Sunday loss. Justin Fields, I saw a stat posted online that he's now 0-26 as a starter when the opponent scores just 21 points or more in his NFL career. And I feel like with this Jets team, even besides the game itself, the quote he had last week about, we're highly paid professionals, we're fortunate to get paid, to play a child's sport when they're 0-4. To me, that was a sign of a guy who was not going to be a winner at the highest levels in the NBA. Like, save that for LeBron after he loses a championship, when he says you're going to wake up the next day and you have the same life, but I'm still happy. Let legends like LeBron say that. But Justin Fields, come on, man. What is this? That's not the right approach or mindset to have. This team seems hopeless with him and Glenn as head coach, man.
Yeah, and I wrote about that stat in my book. It was a few losses less. I want to say it was like 0-23 at the time. But that is and people, when I tweeted that stat out last week when it was 0-25, people were like defending Justin. Oh, well, it's the defense, it's other things. It's like, at some point, you can't just keep pointing your fingers at everybody else. At some point, you have to realize what is going on here. And Justin Fields has a little bit of Bryce Young to him in that they don't start off games very fast. The one game that he started off relatively well was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But for the most part, he's starting off games badly. And when you start off games badly, you could look at the final score, 37-22. The Jets were a little bit competitive. No, they weren't. They were down 30-3 in this game. They're scoring garbage time points, just like what happened with Bryce Young down in Carolina, where he scored enough garbage time points to come back, but they were down 17-0. I mean, they at least came back to win that game. But the other thing is, I'm looking at Aaron Glenn, and he's standing there on the sidelines, and I forget what sitcom this is. Oh, this is the movie, right? I think it's Office Space. It says, "What is it you say you do here?" Like, Aaron Glenn is just standing on the sideline. They keep panning to him because he's getting his butt kicked like 30-3, and he's just standing there, doing nothing, saying nothing into his headset, just looking at the game unfold in front of him. And the question becomes like, are you trying to coach up anybody? Are you making adjustments anywhere? Are you trying to motivate anybody? Are you just watching this unfold, letting your coordinators handle that, and you're just standing there doing nothing and trying to be absolved from what else is happening because you're not calling the plays? I
no,
don't
no, my
understand
coordinator does that. That's the quote
Right.
the office was. No, my secretary does that. My coordinator does that.
Right. I don't understand. I did not understand what he was doing, and they kept showing him because of the loss. We knew this going in, though. Justin Fields, this was not a good situation. I was just a little surprised, I will say, in this game, for what I perceived to be like a lack of desire. And it's hard to really measure that, but I'm just watching this game, and I had the over, which ended up winning. But I'm watching this game, and I'm seeing like he's sliding on runs, he's taking it easy at times, and it's like you're 0-4. You lost in embarrassing fashion on prime time on Monday night. You're coming home against the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are down 4 starting offensive linemen. They're down their number 1 receiver, and their defense was never that great to begin with. And this is the effort that you present in a home game after an embarrassing loss on primetime TV. That just speaks volumes to me about the direction that this team is headed. I didn't think it was going to be a good team going in, but I don't really know how they get things back on track here, given the effort that I saw, the personnel that they have there, and the quarterback who is leading them.
0.6 here, Warren. Titans, 16 unanswered points, and probably the weirdest comeback win. I mean, like, have you ever seen an interception to fumble to touchdown before? I would not watch this game live at all. I had it, I had one screen on Red Zone, and then I saw the NFL posted the full 18-minute video on YouTube. So I watched that this morning, and I don't think I've ever seen a comeback like this one. It's just weird. The Cardinals did everything they could to give the game away, every single point of that game. Have you seen a weirder comeback than this one?
Have not. I mean, especially after we saw last week A.D. Mitchell do the thing that Jonathan Taylor from a few years ago of dropping the ball before he crosses the end zone. How do you allow that to happen again? And Jonathan Gannon rightfully screamed in his face on the sideline. I saw that clip, just very animated. But like, to me, that's coaching, right? That's coaching.
I agree.
You show your team what happened to A.D. Mitchell the prior week and say, if you score a touchdown and you don't run and hand the ball to the ref, or you don't do a celebration in the back of the end zone, like you take the ball through the end zone, the front of the end zone, into the back of the end zone, and then you come back into the end zone if you want to celebrate with your team, but you hit the back of the end zone before you do anything with the football. And to not establish that as like, this is what our team is going to be doing, and we're not going to be on all the SportsCenter blooper things at any point during the season for having something like this happen. And then the very next week that happens, that to me is coaching. Because players have all sorts of things in their minds, but you as the coach have to manage what you want the product to look like out on the field with the players that you are coaching. So I thought that was a disaster. And then that interception where they then turned into a touchdown by Tyler Lockett was probably the most remarkable thing I have ever seen. I can't remember. I'm sure there have been weirder plays that I've seen at different points in time. Of course, you've got like miracle plays with like the Tennessee miracle when they scored a touchdown on the side lateral on the return. Like, there are some been bigger momentous plays that have won games for teams that happen in unbelievable fashion. But like, where a guy has the ball and then it turns into a touchdown a second later, that is just a head scratcher. And so many people were knocked out of Survivor by the Arizona Cardinals in that game, because a lot of the big teams that were favored this past week to win games ended up losing outright. You got the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football. You have the Rams on Thursday Night Football, who were big favorites against all the backups for the 49ers. They lost outright. And then you had the Arizona Cardinals, who were 7.5-point favorites against a winless, hapless, poorly coached Tennessee Titans team. And then they lost. And they would have gone up, 28-3, I think, before he fumbles that football. It was just one of the most mind-boggling wins that I can imagine think of in my most recent memory.
28-3. I love those two numbers together. Good memories there. Talk about comebacks. That was
for you as a Pats fan, yes.
Yes, exactly. For me as a Patriots fan, that's for sure. Cam Ward made some plays down the stretch of that game, some great passes, especially to Ridley, who kind of revived after having some tough matchups early in the week. I'm hopeful for Ridley for my fantasy team. Let's go for 2 with our 6 points here, and I have 2 more questions for you, Warren. Number 7, any reason for the Vikings to stick with Carson Wentz here? Game-winning drive, bye week coming up. JJ McCarthy, I think, nearing health to return. It seems like the Vikings have a decision. Is there any reason for the Vikings to stick with Carson Wentz?
It really depends on what their goals are. I mean, are your goals to win a few more games this season and see what you could do with the rest of your roster? Then you go with Wentz, because Wentz provides a higher floor. But you know what Wentz is. Like, you know what Wentz is. I don't think 2020. I love this coaching staff. I don't know that 2025 Carson Wentz is winning a Super Bowl, though. Like, I just don't know if that's happening. So if you're in the building and you don't think that's happening, you got to figure out what your young quarterback is. And he didn't get a chance at all to play his rookie season. And so you have to throw him out there and let him work through some of the drawbacks and go into film study and review them and go over them and correct some things, and then get back out there and try to improve a little bit more. Not every quarterback's first year was a successful season. A lot of these first years have been struggles, and then they come back and end up performing well. Statistically, there's a quarterback like a Bryce Young. I mentioned him before, but Bryce Young, statistically, based upon his first two seasons, like, he falls in a category for me, based on my research, that he will never be a franchise quarterback. Like, you throw him into all the guys that are going to be backups for some period of time. But statistically, he is not the type of quarterback who would jump. Now, it's not 100%. Like, nothing is 100%. He could always be the one in a million that does something, but I'm just going with the percentages. He is not. You don't know what you've got in JJ McCarthy yet. You just don't know. It's too small of a sample size. You've got to get him out there to work a little bit more and to figure out ways to win and change and adjust your coaching strategy so that you can put him in the best positions possible to succeed. Because we've seen that he's not going to succeed when he's put into some bad situations. So figure out ways to get him into better situations. And it's going to take more work for the coaching staff. It's not going to be as easy for the coaching staff to try to win games with him in there. But without seeing what he does, without giving him the games, you're never going to know. And then what'd you do with the draft pick? So I think you got to put him back out there for sure. Do you sit on the other side of the table, or?
No, I'm with you, man. I mean, I think with JJ McCarthy, his week one, that fourth quarter comeback, the team clearly rallied behind him. There's clearly something there that they believe in. And I think for the Vikings, as you said, Carson Wentz probably doesn't raise your ceiling enough this year. JJ McCarthy, maybe he lowers your floor, but he does give you that kind of X factor chance of a higher ceiling this season, as well as giving you information that is extremely necessary considering the investment that you made and finding out what he's going to be in the long term. So to me, I think JJ McCarthy both lowers the floor and raises the ceiling this year, but also gives you very, very vital long-term information throughout the course of the season. So yeah, to me, it's like a no-brainer. They should go with JJ McCarthy. I would not go with Carson Wentz. You know who he is. Let's move on to the last point here. Number 8, Chiefs. They're 3.5-point favorites on the Jaguars, over the Jaguars on Monday Night Football. What's the key to a Jaguars upset, Warren?
You got to keep Trevor Lawrence on schedule. He's got to be able to complete these early down passes so that you're not playing behind the sticks. Trevor Lawrence has massive splits with and without pressure. We know Steve Spagnuolo's defense is a very tricky one to have success against, especially if it's third down, especially if you're in a predictable situation. So the key factor here is keeping Trevor Lawrence ahead of schedule on early downs, balancing the run, the pass, making sure that you're gaining enough yards on those early downs. And that's where Liam Cohen comes into play, designing a very sound offensive strategy to utilize against this defense that is not as good as we've seen in years past, but still has a very good coaching staff that is very good in single game situations. And they're going to try to make life hell for Trevor Lawrence. And the Jacksonville Jaguars and that coaching staff and Liam Cohen have to figure out ways to not let that influence the outcome of this game.
I look forward to that one tonight. Warren, appreciate you joining me today to recap everything else that we saw this week in the NFL. Please let people know where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. And actually, we've got a special this week. I want to say I got a little sheet here. if you go to sharp.football, you can get any betting / fantasy package for just $1 if you use the code Kevin when you check out. So we do a lot of fantasy football over there, a lot of betting, a lot of player props. We're having a really good season. So make sure you guys check that out. Just go to sharp.football, and that's the way to find us.
Code Kevin. Appreciate it, Warren. Thank you so much for giving my listeners a discount on your site. I'll have to check that out as well, man, because my fantasy team needs some help. I need some assistance.
Well, my kids just got into fantasy football this year is their first year. And my son's team is kicking butt, and my daughter's team not so much. So, I mean, fantasy football, I used to be into fantasy football back in the day. It does take up a lot of time, though, if you're trying to actually win and do well. And I just started to focus all my time in other directions that are a lot more profitable. So
I know it's like my friend league. Unfortunately, I don't know why we haven't raised the price yet. A $50 buy-in. It's like a full-time job for a $600 reward. I mean, what am I doing with my time?
That's what I very much. Yeah. Yeah, same. It was like I wanted to stay with the friends that I was doing this with since college, but it just wasn't like worth the effort anymore. And as a result, yes, you have lost communication with some of those individuals, but I just couldn't devote the time to this to try to like actually care about it. So
I'm making an effort to turn it off a little bit. You know, I'm trying my best to tune it down. It's just hard. I'm a competitor, man. I want to win. I definitely want to beat my friends' asses. But you know,
well, that's where like betting and fantasy football and DFS and all these other things have grown, and they're so much more fun to play. They've got a more instant gratification because you just submit a lineup on Sunday morning and you see if you've won. You place a prop bet and you know in a few hours if you got paid for it. And so there's so much more instant gratification with things like that in the props and the DFS side of things than investing like a season-long fantasy football league. So that's a young man's game, Kevin. It's the young people, like they love doing that, but you and I, people our age, you know, I know a lot of people that got into best ball too. Best ball is a little bit easier. You just like draft. It's all about drafting, and then you don't do anything during the season. But having like season-long fantasy teams, more power to you if you can pull that off.
I'm going to be 1-4 with like the second or third most points in my league. It's just such a
it's frustrating. Like, how do you? What do you do? Awful. Yeah, it's not even your fault.
Awful.
You're a good manager, and yet you can't even win games. You got the same record as the Tennessee Titans. Think about that, Kevin. You got the same record as the Tennessee Titans right now.
I love it though. It's still so fun to play. I love the bickering and the competition and the trade talks with my friends. I love getting ghosted when I try to go for good players and then they go off on their bench. That beats me. I have a lot of fun with it. Warren, people can use just code Kevin at sharpfootballanalysis.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.